This might look like a totally normal Minecraft world. That is, until I break this log. Yes, that's right. Today I will be playing around with the physics mod, and this will be super fun, and probably I'll crash my computer a bunch. So with that, let's get started with the first section. The first category is general, and before we get started, I'd like to ask you to subscribe. It helps me out a ton, but let's get started anyway. So there's a ton of different things here, and it's basically just basic stuff. Like, do you want the item break physics to work? Or like, what do you want the simulation speed to be? Or do you want the Minecraft break particles to be on? Or like the maximum amount of objects you want? And that's pretty boring. It doesn't really change anything too much. That's super cool, but there's a lot of stuff that you would need if you want to be playing in a world with this and don't want to be crashing every hour. The next category is mobs. You have a bunch of different ones. You could have the mob of ragdoll breaking. So that's what happens when you kill a mob. Then there's also ragdoll blood. Same thing, just with some blood particles. Then there's normal ragdoll, where it just doesn't break. Blocky, where they disintegrate into blocks, like that. And this one essentially fractures itself. So that's really cool. Now let's move on to the next section. The next one is blocks. So you have the block physics, there's a bunch of those. Then you have the activation distance, physics object scale, and then the lifetime blocks. This is how many seconds they last for. Or you can do this. So physics object scale, that should in theory. Yep, it makes everything huge. Now what I'm really curious to try with this one is what happens if I go in like here. Oh my god. You can see that the particles blow up to a huge size. Now let's undo that before my PC actually crashes. That's so cool. Then you have different animations that they can do when they reset, like bounce. I'm not going to show you everything in this mod, obviously. So if I do this, you can see that when it vanishes, they'll bounce, like that. Very, very cool. And then there's also a bunch of different ones like crumbled voxel or blocky, which has more of a Minecraft vibe to it, as you can see. So another thing that you've probably seen a lot on YouTube is the ocean settings. So here is the ocean on the physics mod. You can see it does have some waves, which is really cool, since unlike some shaders where there's small waves, they keep them small since your boat can't actually follow them. In this mod, there's actual waves. And no, this is not part of the mod. These are shaders that are making the water look like this. These are complementary shaders with the Unbound style. So yeah, super cool. And what you've probably seen a lot of people do is scroll down here and do this. Well, they're very fast and very low. These get very broken very quickly, especially as you get farther from shore. You see that it just looks like giant waves in a small world. Super cool. You can see that you jump out of the water, and you've also definitely seen people do this. Max out the horizontal scale too. And then you get this, which is very fun. And you've definitely seen this. Most YouTubers do this when they play with the physics mod, since it's really just a lot of fun. Looks absolutely mind-blowing, especially as you get farther from shore, like up here. You can see that these waves are huge. I am spending more time in the air than in the water at this point, and it's just crazy. Since it looks crazy, like, this is not what waves should look like. This thing looks hilarious every time I see it. Now the next thing is called dynamic blocks. So there's a lot of dynamic blocks, and there is the lifetime of them and the load distance of them. And now to know what these are, you can see here's a quick list of them. So it's basically every block that grows. So here's a quick example. If I go onto this grass, normal grass doesn't do it, but tall grass, you can see, I can bend over. Also sunflowers and any door or trap door works too. You can also see that vines bend over when I walk into them, and normal vines move out of the way when I walk into them too. This is also super cool. And this is what they mean by the dynamic blocks for doors. You can see that I can push it open. When it's in one state, I can force it around. to do the wrong way, and same with trapdoors, and force them not to close, and even do that, which is funny since it's glitchy. So that's what dynamic blocks do. Now onto the next section. Next one is cloth. So there's a lot of different cloths, like your cape, for example. But the one that we're going to be demonstrating with is banners. And as you can see, there's a gentle breeze, and you can also kind of like walk into them and move them around. And that's really cool. But you can also manipulate how they work. There's also fishing line, leash, physics, smooth shading, fishing line, and then more of that same thing. Also, if I turn on the weather, wind forces, and clear weather, if I just turn this to max, you can see that it's pulling the cloth like this. You can also see when I do the jump, there's little particles that hit the ground. And those also get blown away, which is super cool. So it's a really cool addition. The wind actually affects almost everything in the physics mod, as well as producing sound, so I'm just going to leave it on. The next section is projectiles. There's a bunch of projectiles, and there's voxel, round, and classic. I'll use one of each for the model. Do that for the snowball. I have voxel, which looks like this. Then for the egg, I have round, so it gives a round, a nice round little egg shape. And then for ender pearl, I also seem to have round. No. And then for egg, I also have classic, which is just nothing. The next thing is liquids. You have liquid physics, GPU liquids. So basically all the liquid physics does is it changes the way that water looks. So as you can see, I turned up the intensity, so now there's more particles when I go splash, which is super cool. But yeah, it doesn't really do much. The next thing is snow. Snow's a very cool one. And you see if I have the level of thickness up, there's multiple types of snow. So if I teleport to a biome where there's snow, voila, you can see that there's snow here. And I find it really cool that you can make tracks through the snow, which is very cool. And especially if I like walk in circles for a little bit, you see that now there's a little hole. You can have a cube type of snow or a lot of snow, which will replace grass in snowy areas with snow, and smooth shading, which is basically, this is cubey snow. Doesn't look it looks more Minecraft-like, but I like the round snow better. The next one is sounds. It's basically just the volumes of wind, ocean, and physics volumes. So not much there. Then you got animations. So you can set custom despawn animations, or just see what they all look like. And you can also create your own. And there's smoke. This one's a very, very cool one. So if you see, if I place a campfire, you see that produces smoke. However, I can change how much smoke this produces. So if I set this to 3, you can see the campfire is producing a lot of smoke here. And I can also change the color of the smoke. Like setting lot red and no red. See that? Now dense smoke is a lot redder, and less dense smoke is a lot less red. And one thing that doesn't really fit in any of these categories, but is still super fun to play with, is TNT. So as you can see that when I explode TNT, and another thing that isn't really a thing on the list, but it's something that you'll see a lot, TNT physics. As you can see, when I do TNT, not only does it kill the chicken, it obliterates the chicken. And it also leaves a thing here and then has a bunch of smoke up in the air. Another thing that you see a lot of people doing is having a village or like a little house with TNT blow up inside of it, so I'll go demonstrate that. So here's a nice little village house, and this is what happens when I blow up a TNT inside of it. It's pretty cool. There's smoke. Everything explodes. Now what happens if I put it... Oops. Sorry. What happens if I put a bunch of TNT inside of it? correct answer is my PC will crash. The incorrect answer is my PC won't crash. So let's see who's right. So you see my PC survived, and it spread debris everywhere. Also, as you can see, if I have a villager and blow up TNT right next to him, you can see he explodes, but he also gets pushed a little bit sideways, which is very interesting. Now's also a good time to demonstrate different physics, which I forgot to show you earlier. You can see that fishing rod has a limited length, and you can see how long that is, since it all casts the second you toss that fishing rod. You see that all there. And there's also leads, which have special physics. You can see that they just bend more realistically and stuff like that. And the final thing is collapsing. And this is essentially the limit of blocks that collapse when you destroy something. So if I set this limit to a maximum, and they go into a cave and break a single block, a lot more blocks should break. As you can see, a ton of blocks are breaking. 5,000, I guess, to be exact. And a great way to end off this video is just destroying my computer. But if you thought this was cool, please subscribe, as it helps me out a ton. And here I go. I make the object skill maximum and break a single block. You see something really interesting happen there, where the blocks didn't actually all break. It just got rid of the things, which is a really cool thing that the physics mod, I think, does to prevent it from breaking people's computers indefinitely. So yeah, with that and my 2 FPS, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye.